Okay, so we're live. Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm Dame Lillian Walker, and we are diving deep into Chapter 12, Part 2. Part 2, because Chapter 12 is a very long chapter, and just the first half took almost 2 hours. So let's get going. Chapter 2, Part 2. I meant to say Chapter 12. Chapter 12, Part 2. Okay, alteration in chemistry creates a new reality. And if you're following along in your books, go to page 327, okay? So, alteration in chemistry creates a new reality. So, imagine if in this moment all your senses were increased by 25%. Wow, can you imagine having all your senses increased by 25%? You can see 25% better, smell 25% better, taste 25% better, hear 25% better, and then feel 25% better. Imagine what you could do with that. If that were the case, everything you were seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and feeling would cause you to become more aware of everything around you. And if awareness and consciousness are the same, then as your consciousness is heightened, the energy your brain is receiving would also be increased, because you can't have a change in consciousness without a change in energy, or vice versa. So as your brain connects to a different frequency that is processing a new stream of consciousness, it is literally turning on. And because your senses feel amplified, you've produced an elevated level of awareness. So the higher the energy or frequency, the greater the alteration in your chemistry. And the greater the alteration in your chemistry, the more lucid your experience will be. So when you're in this transcendental state, you feel more awake and more aware than you are in your day-to-day reality. So as your awareness amplifies, you would feel as if you were truly in that transcendental reality. So if you're picking up information from beyond your senses, information that is not originating from visible light or the sun, then it makes sense that it is called the third eye, because you had such a profound internal experience. And since new experiences assemble new neural networks, that experience enriches the circuitry in your brain. And as your body processes these higher energies, that energy alters your chemistry. And if the end result of an experience is an emotion, then this experience creates elevated feelings and emotions. So when it's activated, you are seeing with a different eye, with inner vision. If the accumulation of feelings equals an emotion, and emotion is energy, then we know that when you experience survival emotions, because they are a lowering of frequency, you feel more like a density of matter and chemistry. But as you experience these higher states of consciousness, because they vibrate at a higher frequency, you will begin to feel less like matter of chemistry. So less like matter or chemistry and more like actual energy. That's why I call this energy in the form of feelings, elevated emotions. So I'm going to read that passage again, because I think there's some distinctions and there's some clues that you need to pay attention to, because as you're progressing, as you continue to do your daily meditations and you're diving deeper and you're being more sensitive and more aware of the nuances. I just had several ahas today, and I took some time to just be more quiet this afternoon and not be so busy with editing and reading and doing all sorts of other business activities and taking care of whatever investments and so forth. No, I just decided to be kind of more in this kind of quiet void. And it's amazing the things that you start to pick up. You start to distinguish the difference between memory, your thoughts, and then things that are neither your memory nor your thoughts. It's like, because you don't think that way, and it's like a revelation, and you're like, oh. And then you also sense things, and as you put the senses together with that awareness, that consciousness, those downloads that you're getting, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, wow. And then sometimes you're like, I don't even know what that means. I need to look this up because I don't know what this word means or this expression. I've never heard of this expression before. So then you look it up and you're like, oh, so that brings another insight to you. So we're going to reread this. If the accumulation of feelings equals an emotion and emotion is energy, then we know that when you experience survival emotions, because they are a lowering of frequency, you feel more like density of matter and chemistry. But as you experience these higher states of consciousness, because they vibrate at a higher frequency, you will begin to feel less like matter or chemistry and more like energy. That's why I call this energy in the form of feelings, elevated emotions. Okay, so there's the distinction. So if the environment signals the genes in a cell, and experiences from the environment create emotions, and emotions are chemical feedback from the experience in the environment, then if nothing ever changes in the external environment, nothing changes in the internal environment of the body, which is still the outer environment of the cell. So, for example, when you live by the same self limiting emotions for years, your body never biologically changes because it doesn't know the difference between the emotion coming from the outer environment and the emotion coming from your inner environment. So instead, the body believes it is living in the same environmental conditions because the same emotions are producing the same chemical signals. Just as the body lives in an external environment in which nothing is changing, the cell too lives in a chemical environment in which nothing is changing. So I want to pause right here because I know that for a long time, even though this is the irony of all, there's one sense that you know intellectually, and then there's a deeper sense of knowing where you understand at a much deeper, more profound level that now you are able to apply it to your life because you have an awareness that has been expanded, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize. It's like now I become aware of another dimension of that knowing, of that knowledge. So think about it. Look at how much, first of all, you may or may have not been privy or aware or been versed in the knowledge and science of epigenetics. And all epigenetics is the science of basically molecular structures, atoms, and the recognition that the environment, not the nucleus of the atom and the molecule, but it's the environment, it's the outer ring, the cell wall that is the brain of that molecule. And we are just simply, this meat suit is a bag of a collection of 50 trillion cells. And who knows how many atoms, but 50 trillion cells. And all of those cells are reacting, and I'm going to tell you my first level of awareness and then what my second level of awareness, what came to be, and this makes all the difference in the world. The obvious environment, of course, is everything that is around us. It's the air, the sun that we breathe. It is the chemicals that you put on your body. That's part of an environment because your skin is touching the environment of that chemical. Shampoos that you use. So anything external to your body is your environment, and that is going to affect you, whether it's, it could be electromagnetic frequencies from even the other people that are around you, because that's environment, to the plants, to the the structure that you're living in. Quite literally, there are people who have sick building illness where they are physically ill due to the chemicals that were used to construct that building. So that's one level of your environment. But another level of your environment, which is an environment that you can control more, is when you eat a plant. This was my second, and then I had a third level of awareness. The second level of awareness of your environment. Did you know that you eat your environment? And people are like, well, how could you possibly eat your environment? That makes no sense. In fact, that's outrageous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't take bites of the air. You just breathe in the air. Aha, you breathe in the air. That's your environment. If your air has pollution, That is an environment that is going now inside your body, and now it's affecting all the 50 trillion cells that you have in your body. Think about it. A plant, it's outside in the environment. An apple on a tree, it's outside in the environment. And you're taking a bite out of that apple. Are you not taking a bite out of the environment when you take a bite out of that apple? Or eat lettuce? Or eat beef from a cow? The cow is outside of you, it's in your environment, whether it's in a farm 3,000 miles away from you or from a local farm, it's still in your environment. And now you're eating that beef, or you're eating that fish that was in the ocean, which was part of your environment. Now you're taking that inside you. You see how that affects how your 50 trillion cells are going to react? But now here's another level of your environment that you're not probably aware of, because I wasn't. And when I had this realization, which wasn't that long ago, it was just in the last 6 months, I was listening to Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is the father of modern epigenetics. He taught medical school for I don't know how many years. He's a microcell biologist. He is the New York Times bestselling author of the book called The Biology of Belief. The Biology of Belief, I want to say, is at least 15 years old. It could be even older than that. He also authored a book called Creating Heaven on Earth, The Honeymoon Effect. In fact, he was on my radio show, The Bottom Line Show Live, and right as he published that book and was bringing it out into the marketplace, I had him as a guest on our show, and we talked about, the book, The Honeymoon Effect. And in listening to one of his YouTube videos in the last year, I realized something that he said, the way he languaged it. Apparently, I was ready, just as you might be ready right now when I say this, because I hope that you have the same aha that I had. But as you do these meditations, as you take the time, at the very least, even if you don't do the meditations, you're doing the breathing, your blood is the environment to the cells in your body, to all the organs, head to toe, including your electromagnetic field, if you're expanding out your electromagnetic field or you're collapsing it, make no mistakes. So you are, by the sheer fact that you are using your focused attention, your consciousness, you are using it deliberately and like a laser. You're going to use your breathing. You're going to do the inhale, starting with your first energy center, bringing it all the way up to the top of your head, holding it, and then releasing it. You are alkalizing your body from your own environment that's inside your body by taking the oxygen in. That's your outer environment going in. You are changing the chemistry of all the cells of all your organs, because now that air is alkalizing the body. So now the blood becomes alkalized, and it's going to bathe all of your organs head to toe. So you can control through the breath your own body's environment. And that is obviously going to make the exterior environment of your body that touches the outer environment, it's going to raise it. It's going to make it better. It's going to bring more light to it as it alkalizes it. I hope you get that concept, because I think that is so profound. You are literally bringing more light through your body as you do that. The photons at a biomolecular level, if you were to look at it under an electron microscope, you would actually see them light up. Make no mistakes about that. You don't need to believe me. There's plenty of research. Go YouTube, go check the research that Dr. Bruce Lipton does, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm going to direct you also to Greg Braden, a physicist. I'm trying to think. Roland McCready from the Heart Math Institute. There's plenty. It's just, if you just do a Google search, do it in YouTube, you'll see there's tons of talks on that. It's absolutely, Moran Seraph has tons of information on this too. Brilliant genius guy that he is. So, okay, so let's move on to the next part. So instead, the body believes it is living in the same environmental conditions because the same emotions are producing the same chemicals. I'm going to pause here. it's talking here about your body believes that it is living in the same environmental conditions, not only exterior to you, but as you think in your heart, so are you. James Allen said that in his book, As a Man Thinketh, and in the Old Testament, of the Torah, as well as the Christian Bible, the Catholic Bible, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, in Proverbs. So if you are thinking the same thoughts and the same emotions, then that's signaling to the cells of the body that there is no change, okay? So just as the body lives in an external environment which nothing is changing, the cell too lives in a chemical environment in which nothing is changing. So, but when you start having these internal experiences of heightened awareness and expanded consciousness experiences, and these are more real and sensory than any in the past. And the moment you feel that new heightened emotion or ecstatic energy, you've altered your internal state. And as a result, you're going to pay more attention to the images of reality that you've created within you. So if you have a new experience that is so real, it captures all your brain's attention or awakening, embosses that event neurologically in your brain. That new emotion now creates a long-term memory, and those new emotions signal new genes. But this time, the experience that's creating the long-term memory is not coming from your outer environment. It's coming from your inner environment, which is still the outer environment of the cell. There's the distinction. So it's coming from your inner environment, which is the outer environment of the cells inside your body. So because the event is so powerful that you cannot be aware, therefore, the higher the energy, the higher the consciousness. The higher the consciousness, the greater the awareness. The greater the awareness, the broader the experience of reality you have. And as we all know, all perception is based on how the brain is wired from our experiences in the past. We don't perceive things in our reality the way they are. We perceive reality the way we are. If you just had an internal experience in which you saw profound mystical beings, witnessed a glow, a halo, or light around everything, felt the wholeness, oneness, and interconnectedness of everything and everyone, or experienced a completely different time and space, when you open your eyes after the experience, your spectrum of reality in your waking state will be broadened. That's because the inner experience changed your brain, and now you're neurologically wired to perceive a greater expression of reality. So this is how you begin to change who you are from the inside out. So this is how you alter your experience of the three-dimensional world of matter. So evolution on both an individual and a species level is a slow process. You have experiences, you get hurt, you learn your lesson. Boy, we learn our lesson. We do. You grow a little bit, or maybe you grow a lot of bit. I don't know about you, but I've grown a fan-frickin-tastic amount over the course of my lifetime. And I've had people who've told me, oh my gosh, you are so different. I mean, I am unrecognizable from who I was when I was 14 years old. I mean, I was painfully shy. I was the ultimate wallflower. And the first 3-4 months of high school, because I went to a brand new high school and everybody else had gone to junior high and elementary at a public school, and I came from a private school, everybody knew each other and I didn't know anybody. And because I didn't even know that I was shy until I was in high school. Isn't that funny? And so I arrived on the scene, and here we were. It was November, the week before Thanksgiving, and nobody even knew that I existed or that I was alive. And lo and behold, I realized it sucks to be shy. So I had to make a conscious decision to open my mouth and to say hi, to be the first one to say hi. And I had to basically create my own personal reality by changing my personality and getting out of my comfort zone and making it comfortable for others to engage in conversation with me. Because the people who were chatterboxes, they were chatterboxes in between each other. So the two chatterboxes behind me, they chattered away. You know, they didn't see me because since I wasn't open to talking, they were, you know, talking to the next person who was open to talking, and one chatterbox with another chatterbox. Well, then there's a chatterbox storm. Does that make sense? So once I drew a line in the sand and I decided no more, I said, it sucks to be shy. There's no payoff in being shy. Nobody even knows I exist. And, you know, we're going to blink again and now it's going to be Christmas. And if I continue doing what I've been doing, I'm going to continue getting what I've gotten. And that's not acceptable. And so I made a change. Monday, I showed up to my first period class in ninth grade was English with Mrs. Boards. I'll never forget. And I just decided the first thing I did was I turned around and I said hello to the person behind me and to the person behind them and to the person to my right, the first three people that were sitting in the row next to me. And when I changed, everything changed. So that's what this work is about, so that you get the results that you want and you can change the results that you don't want. So it says here, it's a slow process because you're not receiving much new information from your outer environment. So then you have some more pain. You get the next lesson. You move on to the next challenge. You succeed and achieve goals. You set more goals. You grow again. And the cycle continues. It's a slow process because you're not receiving much information from your outer environment. But once you have these unknown internal experiences that are more real than anything in your external world, you can never again see reality in the same manner because the experience changes you so profoundly. Another way to say it is that you receive an upgrade or a software update if all the reality you perceive is based on your experiences and you've just had an interdimensional experience. Your brain is now going to be able to perceive what has always existed, but you have never before had the brain circuitry to perceive. So if you continuously have these expansive experiences and continuously experience a broader and broader spectrum of reality. So this lifts the veil. It's going to lift the veil of illusion. And when that veil is lifted, you can see reality as it truly is, vibrating, shining, connected, and shimmering in luminescent light. And energy is driving the whole process. You're now tuning into a greater spectrum of information where all of a sudden everything looks and feels different than it did when you saw it simply as matter, and your relationship changes. This is how the mystics and masters made their way, by tuning into their inner world and thus broadening their perception of the nature of reality in their outer world. Imagine who you could become if you stopped living by the hallmarks of the lower three energy centers, including survival, fear, pain, separation, anger, and competition, and instead lived from the heart and operated out of love, oneness, and connection to all things, both seen and unseen. So by having enough interdimensional experiences from information beyond the senses, the mystics and masters no longer saw equal to the genes they were born with. So they no longer process things the way the brain they'd been given at birth had been wired, the way the human brain has been imprinted for thousands of years. Instead, because of their interaction with the field, the 5D quantum field, they created the awareness, the circuitry, and the mind to perceive a different reality, one that's always been there. I'm going to hit the pause button there because one thing that most people, I'm going to say the majority of people, because most people are not in the sciences, most people are not privy to the information that physicists, that biochemists, that neuroendocrinologists, and chemical toxicologists, and people that are in the medical and the science fields that are actually hands-on, they're aware not just in the 3D plane, but they're actually looking at a subatomic and microscopic level, and the correlation and the interaction between both. So what I'm about to say here is that what most people aren't aware of is that when you look at you as a cellular being made up of 50 trillion cells, when you were born, it says here, it's talking about how you were given a brain at birth. And we tend to think and believe that when we are born, that we are born tabla rosa, which is with a blank slate, that our brain doesn't have any information. But that is in fact not true. It isn't true, because the reality is we now know without a shadow of a doubt, and it's scientifically proven, not only do we create memories in utero, so whatever it is that your mother was exposed to during your fertilization period and from the time that you were conceived to the point that she gave birth to you, if she had any kind of trauma, if she was in any kind of an accident, if she had a shocking physical or emotional trauma, if she was in an accident, if she was in an abusive relationship, your brain is basically firing and wiring, and it's recording all of that information prior to your birth. And there's more, because it's not limited to the 7, 8, 9 months that you're in utero. You're born with cell memory. So you have inherited some of the neurological pathways and wiring from not only your mother and whatever experiences she's had, but your mother's mother, your mother's grandmother, your mother's great-grandmother, and your mother's great-great-great-grandmother. They say that it goes back at least 7 generations, which begs for you to pay attention and go, do I really want to be subject and slave to all of that? Because the chances are pretty good that they were unaware of all that baggage, all that, in the spiritual circles and in Christianity, I think in Catholicism too. I know that in the Jewish tradition as well, we talk about generational sin. Now, it sounds so judgmental, generational sin. All that really means is generations of missing the mark. So I don't want you to think of sin as in, oh, I did something wrong. No, it's generational sin is generations of missing the mark. That's really what that word means. Guess what? You don't have to miss the mark anymore, because now you are aware that all you have to do is put your hands on the steering wheel. How do you do that? By using your free will. You take your free will, you take your awareness and your focus, and now you choose to align it with your heart. You're going to open up your heart, bring the elevated emotion of love, and now you're opening all your energy centers. That elevated emotion is now going to connect to your brain. Now you are firing and wiring, linking and syncing on purpose what it is that you want, no longer missing the mark, because where you put your focus is where energy goes. Energy goes where focus and attention goes, and that's where energy is going to flow. That's the great news. This is what's empowering about this work. And the perception, it is uncanny how much more psychic you become. I also don't like the word psychic, because I know that in many circles it's like this voodoo-ish word that it's like, woo, she's psychic. And so forget the word psychic. Your natural talents and abilities that you were already wired with become multidimensionally sensitive. So we have the scientific evidence here. Your senses are broadened because now you have the neurocircuitry that has heightened your senses. Now you can see things, not just, yes, you do see things differently from the 3D level, but what's more exciting is what you see from your mind's eye. The revelations, the insights that you have, it is far more heightened. Even your sense of smell, your sense of seeing, hearing, tasting, your intuition goes through the roof. Your ability to tune in, tap in. I hope you're sitting down, but this is crazy, and it's so true. And you can feel it, is the crazy thing. you can actually tune in to another person's autonomic nervous system. And you don't have to be in the same room with them. It's crazy. They may be in the same country as you, maybe on the other side of the country. They may be on another continent. And I can't tell you how many times where, I had somebody on either a WhatsApp phone call or video or a Facebook video or a Zoom video. And we were doing a neuro health reset and we were talking about certain things. And I tapped into that person's autonomic nervous system. And I thought, so then now certain things are revealed. You're like, wow. Now, in the past, I was a champion at doubting my intuition all the time. I always second guessed my intuition. I knew that I had strong intuition, but I second guessed it all the time. And last year, I made a mindful choice to not only open up my intuition, but to stop doubting it and to verify and to confirm it whenever possible. And I tested it time and time and time and time again to the point where it was like, oh my gosh, this is so on par that I can't deny it anymore. So now as I'm talking to people, I reveal certain things and they're like, how did you know that? They're like, how could this be, or sometimes maybe a text that I'll send somebody and they're like, did you write this to anybody else or was this specifically to me? Because this is uncanny how this is like 100% accurate. And I don't know. It's not that I know it from an intellectual level. It's not from my memory because I don't know the person from beforehand. So it's not from my memory. That's for real sure. And it's not from my thoughts because I didn't think anything of them in any way because I didn't know them well enough to have that much of an opinion formed other than I'm, in an unconditional loving place and I want to help them. I'm aware that they have some sort of pain and that's it. And I want to help them relieve that pain so that it is lessened, at the very least lessened, if not eliminated altogether. And so as I continue to intuit, it's intuit cognizance. I have my do not disturb on, so I don't know how that's getting through. Bizarre. Anyhow, as I use my intuit cognizant abilities, it's amazing, but it's not anything I studied. It's just from doing the meditations and from trusting my intuition and then willing to be foolish, not be attached to what other people think. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. Now there are certain things that I know that it's like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. I don't care. They can deny it. I know. Because there's a certain resonance that I feel. There's like a certain feeling that I'm sure it's different for everybody. So when somebody says something, if it isn't true, they could deny the truth and I'll know that they're denying the truth. They could be telling me, yes, this is true and it is true and I'll know because it's like a vibrational humming. It's a certain feeling. I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want anybody to be boxed into thinking that, well, I have to feel this certain thing in order for it to, it's like for a long time, I've had this thing that I called a God feeling. It's like a God incidence. And when I have God incidences, it's a certain vibratory feeling and it's a sound also that I hear. And so when that happens, I know that I'm spot on. That's like my confirmation. I don't wait for that confirmation in order to know that it's on par, but it seems to happen most of the time when I'm talking to somebody and there's a certain resonance to it, then there's that certain feeling, which is indisputable. I don't get it at any other time. So I hope this is helping you, the person that's looking at this video right now. I hope it helps you understand this and it helps you further your walk because I know that that's what's helped me in my walk. And if you want to check out, there's a guy who has a YouTube channel, which is fantastic. He talks a lot about the different forms of meditation. He also talks a lot about consciousness. There's two guys, in fact, that I'm going to refer you to that you can check out separate from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And both of them have a completely different background from Dr. Joe, but both are phenomenal. And one of them is Brian Scott, The Reality Revolution. It's a YouTube channel, and he has a lot of information, everything from, one of my mentors, Neville Goddard, as well as Dolores Cannon, to the Law of One, teachings of Thoth, his insights are really spot on, and he applies what he's learning, and he shares what he's learning, and he's open to speaking and communicating with you to learn more. So Reality Revolution, it's on YouTube channel, fantastic channel. They got some great meditations on there that Brian Scott does that he himself has created, which are really choice. I really enjoy them. And then the other guy is Aaron Doughty, which he basically is all about expanding your consciousness, which is what all of this work is all about. Okay. So they don't know that I'm referring you to them. I happen to be, subscribed to their YouTube channels, and I learn and I get a lot of value out of it. And if it gives value to you and it points you, there's 400 hours a minute that are created on YouTube. So we are in the information age. Now the challenge is sifting, sorting, and separating through this myriad of infinite volumes of information and finding what information is out there that resonates with you, that will help you further along your journey that we call life. That's just a little dash of time between birth and death. We just have so much time, and that's our most valuable commodity. That is my most precious commodity. Money, I can always make money. Any material possession, even if there's something materially, a shirt or a bike, if I can't buy the exact same thing because it's no longer in production, it still can be replaced. My time is my most valuable resource. And one of the things that I'm starting to become more and more aware of, that I hope that you become aware of too, because if this global pandemic that we've been experiencing, this COVID-19 is really a health and spirit reset for you to recognize the strength and the delicate nature of life, to maybe tune in and recognize your own mortality and your own aspect of infinity, and to recognize that in fact, your most valuable resource is your time. How do you invest your life? What is it that you're giving your focus and your attention to? Because where you're giving your focus and your attention to, that's where your energy is going. And if that's where your energy is going, are you aware that you're investing that? You only have so much energy in a day. So where is your energy and attention going? Who are the energy leaks in your life? Where are the valuable, everybody, whether you want to admit it or not, we all have people that we know. We have, I'm writing a book right now on friendship. And it's been a very exciting, never intended to write this book on friendship. That's another story altogether. Definitely an inspiration that came to me out of the blue. It was a tangent. However, one of the things that we all recognize is that we have friendships and we have acquaintances, every shade of gray. We have friends that are our best friends for life, that, we are just like tight. We are like, like white on rye. We are just, we're bonded. And then we have friends that are close friends, that are, it's our tribe. Those are the people that we communicate with on a more of a daily basis, who have our heart, who really understand us. We have our family. We have great family members that we have beautiful, warm, loving relationships with. We may have a family member. Everybody's got a black sheep in their family. One person that perhaps they're not that copacetic with. That's all fine. And the bigger your family, the more likely it is that you'll have one or two or more. But for the most part, I think everybody has great relationships with their family, and you absolutely love and you adore my dad, my mom, my brothers, my best friend is my sister, and I have girlfriends that I consider to be sisters too, and I have guy friends that I consider to be like brothers to me as well. And then we have business friendships, we have business acquaintances, we have then people that are business associates, and some of those relationships turn into friendships, and then strong, close friendships that survive beyond business. And then you have people more on the outskirts, people that but you don't really know, but you know of them. And, or, very surface type of relationships. There's some people that maybe are more of a surface relationship that based on whatever, maybe something, just an internal gut feeling that you have, that you decide to have a stronger relationship or want to get to know them better. And then there are others that no, there's no desire for that whatsoever. Pay attention. I'm going to say the message for you here today is to pay attention to the nudgings of your heart, because your heart, as we've learned in the previous chapters, your brain has its own intelligence. It has its own knowing. And you may not know this, and probably no one has ever told you this before, but your heart is selfish. It's selfish. It's a paradoxical organ. It's selfish and selfless. And if you are not true to yourself, and you know what? I'm the first one to be guilty of not expressing my emotions enough, especially in the past. And I'm trying to get better. It's been my intent since 2013 to live with an open heart, to embrace all of my emotions. Not only the happy, joyous ones that I love to share with everybody, but even the ones that don't feel so good. The mad ones, maybe and I don't get mad very easily, but the mad ones, or the unsatisfied one, or the unpleasant ones, or the dissatisfied or discontent or intolerant ones. Because you know what? Those are valuable emotions. We shouldn't deny them. We should not depress and suppress them or repress them. They're there for a reason. They are showing you something. Sometimes it is mirroring something back to you. The universe is putting something in front of you, saying, we don't want you to ignore this anymore. Look at this. It's, you know what, let's get up in your grill. Let's put it right up there on your face. Yeah, you know what? We don't want you to deny this anymore. And some of us are such experts. At least that's what I've done. It's like, da-da-da, no, that doesn't feel good. Let me not pay attention to that. When will we learn? Well, you know, the good news is, what I've learned in my lifetime is that we have our entire life to learn these lessons. And sometimes we get a little tap. Sometimes it's more of a, hey, pay attention. Sometimes it'll wake you up in the middle of the night. Sometimes you get a knock on the head. Sometimes life will put you flat on your back. Maybe you're that person right now. Maybe you are either in a hospital bed or in a bed at home, confined, not just because of quarantine, because you're not feeling well, or you have some sort of syndrome that is malfunctioning and you don't feel well today, like fibromyalgia, or maybe your diabetes, your sugar is totally out of whack, even though you've been very conscious about measuring your blood and taking your insulin, and you've been not eating too many carbs. And for whatever reason, the stress is probably whacking you out. And because of that, you're not feeling good. There's a feeling that's probably attached to all of that, which is altering your chemistry. It's all a chemical reaction. Pay attention. Maybe you're not speaking your truth to somebody in your life, or maybe it's a group of people in your life. Yeah, it could be. Maybe it's your parents. It could be a group of two. Maybe you're not speaking your truth to your parents, or maybe you're speaking your truth to one parent and not another. I don't care how old you are. You could be 12, or you could be, 70 years old, and you can have a 95-year-old parent, and you're still not being congruent with yourself. You're not being completely honest with yourself. So you're not expressing your truth with your 92 or 95-year-old parent. So there's a reason why this is coming out right now. It's for you to, I just became aware. I used to be a sports widow. I used to be a golf widow, sports widow, because my ex, who is still to this day, he's an oil executive, and he is passionate, crazy about sports. So I just learned yesterday that there's no sports on TV right now. There's no football, no baseball, no hockey. Can you imagine how much free time the people who are glued to the TV, where you basically every day you watch, during football season, you're watching football. Hockey has 80 games a year. That's 80 nights. 80 nights a year that you are either physically, because you have season tickets, like we didn't go to 80 games. We had 40 games because half the season are away games, and we didn't go to all of the away games. We went mostly to the home games. So that's 80 nights of viewing, whether you're watching it on the television set or you're physically driving to go to the Staples Center or what have you to watch whatever that sporting event is. So you're doing that 80 nights a year for hockey, as an example. And then, before the hockey season is even over, you have baseball that's coming on. So in the midst of watching hockey, you're taping baseball. Then after you're done with your hockey game, you're watching baseball. And because you're an avid golfer, you're also recording these golf games and watching that too. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of time, a lot of hypnosis, a lot of distraction. That really is a form of meditation, I guess you could say, but you're going off of whatever the programming that they're putting into your eyeballs and into your subconscious, as opposed to what you willfully are wanting to do. So now you have to get to know you, because you have all this extra time. And I'm sure a lot of people on this globe are experiencing that, where they're going, wow, I don't have that to get me to escape from work and from my personal relationships. They don't have that escape anymore. And maybe you are the football player. Maybe you are the tennis player, the racquetball player. No one's able to go out and play tennis and racquetball. The tennis courts here are empty. Racquetball courts are empty. Bicycling, everybody's still bicycling here. But some of these other sports, not so much. So I want you to pay close attention to this particular aspect, because your heart is trying to say something to you, and it's for your own good. And if you have any kind of weird fluttering sensations in your heart, if you've had some arrhythmias, if you've had any kind of like defib kind of activity going on in your heart is literally trying to get your attention and say, there are things that are going on that don't feel so good, and I need to get this energy out. And this is the easiest, most painless way that you're going to go about opening up your heart, becoming the true you, and being one with yourself, so that you stop denying and defending yourself against all those different things. So moving on. So by having enough interdimensional experiences from information beyond the senses, the mystics and masters no longer saw equal to the genes they were born with. You're not at their mercy anymore, because now you're programming it on purpose. So they no longer processed things the way the brain they'd been given at birth had been wired, the way the human brain has been imprinted for thousands of years. Instead of their interaction with the field, they created the awareness, the circuitry, and the mind to perceive a different reality, one that's always been there. That's the ironic thing. It's always been there. You were just unaware of it. So these mythic and magical properties of the pineal gland, the brain's alchemist, are certainly not new information, although it seems modern science is just now catching up to what ancient civilizations have always known. So this crop circle found in Roundway, United Kingdom on July 21st, 2011, shows the chemical structure of melatonin. Maybe someone is trying to tell us something. Let's think about that for a second. There's a crop circle that's found in Roundway, UK. I think that there's a little sign there, because of all the cities they picked Roundway. Notice that there's a circle. It's round. U as in you, K as in okay. On July 21st, 2011, and it shows the chemical structure of melatonin. Mel puts you to sleep, Sarah wakes you up. Melatonin is the chemical that your pineal gland and pituitary release so that you become sleepy at night, so that you go into theta. That is also the optimum state for you to be in, or that you aspire to be in when you meditate, so that you can in fact access more easily your subconscious mind, but you're also able then to travel to other dimensions, and you're able to open your consciousness and receive the vibrational frequencies and the interpretation of the packets of information or the experiences that come to you in that process. So the message here that we're reading, the crop circle, round way, UK, July. I could get into the numbers, but we're going to leave that alone for this time. But it's the chemical structure of melatonin, really? They're telling us to meditate. They're telling us connect with us. There's a whole group of energies, healing energies that are waiting for you to call upon them so that they can come in and help you and adjust you in a good way. Melatonin, mathematics, ancient symbols, and the pineal gland. So on July 23rd, 2011, a crop circle that looks very much like the chemical structure of melatonin appeared in the English countryside of Roundway near Devies, Wiltshire. Devises, maybe it's supposed to be devises, not Devies. Devizes. Devi. I know that the name Devi, because I had a doctor that was named Devi. Devies or devises. Wiltshire. Moving on, figure 12.11. Is the crop circle an elaborate hoax, or is somebody somewhere in another dimension trying to tell us something? Okay, my personal opinion is they're trying to tell us something. In fact, they're not trying to tell us something. They're giving us a message. So as you read this section, you can decide for yourself whether such things happen by coincidence or intelligent design. The brain has two hemispheres, and if you divide them in half by slicing the brain down the middle, you would perform what is known as a sagittal cut. When looking at the sagittal cut in figure 12.12, pay particular attention to the location and collective formation of the pineal gland, thalamus, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and corpus callosum. Does that formation remind you of anything? Meant to signify protection, power, and good health, it's the ancient Egyptian symbol called the Eye of Horus. Is it possible that there was an ancient teaching about the autonomic nervous system, the reticular activating system, also known as the RAS, the thalamic gate, and the pineal gland? The Egyptians must have known the significance of the autonomic nervous system and realized that the activating the pineal gland meant they could enter the other world or other dimensions. So if you slice the brain down the middle, you can view the limbic brain and take a look, and you'll notice a striking resemblance to the Eye of Horus. So I hope and pray that by now you have gotten your book. I hope that you got at the very least the Kindle version or the iBook version for if you have an iPad. And I would encourage you to get the paperback as well, because it is invaluable. If you're serious about this work and you're studying the book, you're going to want to not just have the digital form of the book, but you're going to want to be able to page through the book and actually look at the pages and the graphs and so forth, and have the neurosomatic experience of highlighting the book and feeling the tangible pages, because the information will be stored at a different level in your mind. I'm only telling you that because you can see my copy of my paperback book right there. And I have a digital version of the book as well. And I use them both. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. So in the Egyptian system of measurement, the Eye of Horus also represents a fractional quantification system to measure parts of the whole. In the modern mathematics, we call this Fibonacci constant. The Fibonacci constant, or Fibonacci's sequence. And as I mentioned earlier in the book, this is a mathematical formula that shows up everywhere in nature, displayed in patterns you can see in sunflowers, seashells, pineapples, pine cones, eggs, and even the structure of our Milky Way galaxy. Also known as the golden spiral, the golden mean, or the golden ratio, the Fibonacci constant is characterized by the fact that every number after the first two is the sum of the preceding two. If you superimpose this formula over the brain and began dividing squares while adding another square and another square, you'd get a fractal pattern, a never-ending pattern that's infinite, that repeats itself at every scale. So it doesn't matter if it's just on the molecular scale or if it's looking at the galaxies in the universe. This is a repeating scale and fractal pattern called the Fibonacci pattern, which is also, the golden mean is also something that they used, like Leonardo da Vinci used the golden mean in all of his art. It's also a constant and a principle that is taught in art. You see it in flowers, you see the Fibonacci sequencing. It's really quite stunning. It's a geometrical, symmetrical, repeating pattern. I could have gotten, I'm thinking of a couple of flowers I have downstairs that I could bring and show you guys, but Google it. Or Google, there's some really cool videos on YouTube about Fibonacci patterns. So check them out. So starting at the pineal gland, this formula outlines the exact structure of the brain. Look at figure 12.13. And are you beginning to think there might be something special going on with the pineal gland? If you follow the golden ratio, Fibonacci's constants, along the circumference of the brain, the spiral will end at the exact point of the pineal gland. Imagine that. So in Greek mythology, Hermes was a messenger of the gods who could move in and out of earthly and divine realms. He was considered a god of transitions and of dimensions, as well as the guide to the afterlife. So his main symbol was the caduceus, which consists of two snakes wrapped around a rod, the top of which unfolds into wings of birds. See figure 12.14. The caduceus, which Hermes used as a staff, is often considered as a symbol of wealth. Do you think those snakes moving up the staff represent the movement of energy up the spine from the body to the brain, and the wings, the liberation of the self when the energy arrives at the pineal gland to signify enlightenment? The crown represents our highest potential and our greatest expression of the divine when we activate our pineal gland. Wow. So the crown represents our highest potential and our greatest expansion of the divine, our expression of the divine when we activate our pineal gland, represented by the pine cone. So the crowning of the self is the conquering of self. This is why I chose this image for the cover of this book. So if you look at the cover of Becoming Supernatural, you'll see the caduceus right on the cover. So tuning into higher dimensions of time and space meditation. So since melatonin levels are at their height between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., that's the best time to do this meditation. Start by activating your heart center for one song. Then bless your energy centers, starting with the lowest one. And as you learned in the Blessing of the Energy Centers meditation in chapter 4, bless this energy center by resting your attention first in that space of that energy center, which is at the base of your spine, basically where your private parts are at the bottom there. And then in the space all around it. Do this for the first and then for the second energy center. And then focus your attention on the second energy center, just 2 inches below your belly button, at the second center at the same time. So you're focusing on both the first and the second energy center at the same time. So you're going to continue this process with each energy center, creating a bigger field by connecting each of the energy centers to the prior energy centers. And eventually you'll align all 8 centers and the energy around your entire body simultaneously. So this should take about 45 minutes. Then lie down for 20 minutes and let your autonomic nervous system take the orders to balance the body. So now you're going to sit up and do the breath, bringing that energy all the way up to the top of your head. And you're going to hold it when you get to the top of your head. And you're going to squeeze your insides. Squeeze. compressing the crystals of the pineal gland, thus activating it and creating an electromagnetic field. What I do is I actually picture my pineal gland, which is, I mean, to give you an idea, this SD card would be considered huge, but the pineal gland is, you see one of those little gold bars is probably about the size of your pineal gland, because it's the size of a rice grain, and that's about the size of a rice grain, just to give you an idea. So what I do is I picture my pineal gland in the middle of my head, and then I picture those rhombohedron shaped crystals. There's about 5 of them. They're calcium carbonate. They're stacked one on top of the other. I picture them, I don't know what color they are, but in my mind's eye, I see them as white crystals for some reason. And I picture them as I inhale and I exhale, I picture them shimmering, because I want that piezoelectric effect to signal my pineal gland to get that benzodiazepine going, to get that vasopressin going. So I'm going to go from melatonin to benzodiazepine to vasopressin to eventually dimethyltryptamine, get my L-tryptophan going, so on and so forth, get my IgA levels up, start that chemical reaction going, so that then I can get into my subconscious and start programming it. That field is going to stretch as far as it can go, and then it's going to reverse and compress those crystals. And as you increase the frequency, you're going to pick up higher and higher vibrational realms. And then your brain is going to take that information and turn it into imagery. And one last point about this breath. I want to emphasize that it is not necessary to take a fast, deep breath and then squeeze your intrinsic muscles and then hold your breath to the point that you turn purple. Instead, I want you to take a very slow, long, steady breath, coordinating the breath with the contraction of your intrinsic muscles equally as you inhale, and slowly follow the breath all the way to the top of your head. This is the 4th way you can activate the pineal gland. Okay, now this is a trip. This is my 3rd time reading this book, and I don't remember ever reading that there are 4 ways to activate the pineal gland. So guess what? While you and I are here reading, reviewing, studying, and applying these principles, I'm going to highlight that, because I'm going to have to go look up. We're on chapter 12. This is my 3rd reading. I'm going to have to look up what are the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd ways. I thought the one way was just through the meditation, through the breath and the meditation and the visualization. It says here, this is the 4th way you can activate the pineal gland. Maybe he's alluding to the 4th way being by using this meditation called the blessing of the energy centers, or by using the meditation called tuning into higher dimensions of time and space meditation. Because if you go to Dr. Joe's website and you look under meditations, you'll see there is one called tuning into higher dimensions of space. Tuning into higher dimensions of time and space meditation. He also has one called tuning into new potentials, which is similar but not the same. So take note of that. So when you're done with your breath, rest your attention between the back of your throat and the back of your head in space. You are locating that gland, and by placing your attention there, you are placing your energy there. So keep your attention there for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to stop here. To be honest with you, when I do meditations, I don't feel time. So I know he tells you to hold it for 5 or 10 minutes. So because I can't feel whether it's been, I can't distinguish, honestly, the difference between 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, an hour. I can't tell. I don't feel the time. So what I do is I tell my super consciousness to tell my consciousness when it's done. So it knows how long, if my brain needs 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, however many minutes, it will tell me, and then I know to move on. And as soon as I feel the inkling to move on, I just move on. And I just trust myself that my brain knows what it's doing, even though intellectually I don't, but I trust my inner guidance. And that's what it means to trust your inner guidance, by the way. So as a thought and awareness and consciousness, get really tiny and move into the chamber of the pineal gland. That's a trip to do, by the way, when you do this. So you get really tiny and move into the chamber of the pineal gland and sense the space inside your pineal gland, in that room, in the center of this little organ, and in space. Linger there for 5 to 10 minutes. Then sense the frequency and space beyond the boundaries of the gland. Radiate the energy beyond that room into the big black space. Direct that energy to carry the intention that this gland releases its sacred metabolites for the mystical experience. So broadcast that information into the space beyond your head, in space, in the blackness, in the void. Now open up, tune into the energy beyond your head. And at this point, you're going, well, how do I do that? Just trust. Your intention is to tune into the energy beyond your head. So you're going to feel and notice the space all around you. That's tuning in, okay? So you're tuning in to the energy beyond your head in the vast, eternal black space, and just receive. The longer you're conscious of this energy and the more you can receive that frequency, the more you are altering and upgrading melatonin to its radical metabolites. Don't expect anything to happen. Don't try to anticipate. Just keep receiving. I'm going to have to hit the pause button here because that's such an important part. You're just there as an awareness. You let go, you surrender. You might even say in your mind, I let go, I surrender. That's what I've done. I let go, I surrender. You're not attached to anything happening. You're not trying anything. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're just as the awareness there, and you're feeling and sensing the tuning into that blackness and that space and that void all around you, and seeing and feeling and sensing the sensation of the energy around you. And you're just open. You're just there as an open book. Finally, you lie down again and let the autonomic nervous system take over. Enjoy the scenery. Okay, that finishes chapter 12. Okay, a couple things I want to share with you when you're doing these meditations that you might feel, because some people get afraid of them. And sometimes when you're doing the meditations, one of the feelings that I've experienced, and I don't know if you'll have this feeling, or everybody, your body as a transmitter and transducer of reading vibrational frequencies inside you and outside you, the way you language and describe what you feel may be different. And everybody's going to feel slightly different because everybody has different levels of sensitivity. But one of the things that I have felt is, like, sometimes I feel like all of a sudden I feel like I'm going back like this, kind of like I'm being pulled from my head out into space, like at a diagonal, like out into the void, like into like hyperspace. And it literally feels I'm being pulled back. And there's also kind of an even more darkening feeling, and also it's kind of like a dizzy, kind of a dizzying, kind of like, ooh, you feel kind of like you're gonna pass out, I guess. It's kind of the feeling. So it doesn't feel like your normal state. That's probably my best way of describing it. But so that's what I feel. So oftentimes I feel like I'm going, like, especially when I go into theta, I feel like a downshift. And then oftentimes then I feel like I'm going back, and it's like I'm being pulled this way. And it's like, I kind of feel like my soul and my spirit and my energy is being pulled out of the back of my head. I'm like, I'm going diagonally out into outer space. Now, my perception was before that it was outer space. It's actually not outer space. It's out into other dimensions of the blackness, the void, wherever, because outer space is limited to the material world. And so where we're going in meditation, you're not limited by this galaxy or by this universe. We can go to any galaxy, any myriad of multiverses. In fact, you can go to whatever dimensions you're taken to. I wouldn't even know how to ask for, now I know about the 6th, 7th, 8th dimension because I went there once in a meditation. That was a profound mystical experience, but prior to that, I could have not asked or intended that. I can tell you now, I intend to go back to those dimensions. Will I ever go back to those dimensions in my lifetime? I have no idea. I'm not attached to it. Like everything else, I know that I can create my reality. I know that once I put the order in and I put the intention of continuing with an open heart and wanting to return there to learn greater things and to have greater adjustments done, I know that the order's in, and just like hitting commands on a keyboard, it's done. You don't have to question it. Did it take? No, it's done. The order's in. Now I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when. So that's it. I don't think I have anything else to share with you tonight. Tomorrow we will be studying chapter 13, which is Project Coherence. And so I just want to say, I am so happy and excited that you tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to chapter 12, part 2. I hope you are having a kick-ass time studying Becoming Supernatural. I hope you know that because you decided to do this study, just taking that one action step makes you supernatural. It sets you aside from the herd, from the masses. You have decided to be part of the cream of the crop. And if you have a desire to truly become supernatural in ways that you start to recognize as being, whoa, this is some pretty supernatural, pretty like things that are going on that are of biblical proportions that I can't explain, and I don't even know how to recreate it, or how did that happen? And if that is what you want and that's what you desire, then my friend, you are at the right place at the right time with the right people. You asked, you're receiving answers, and I sure hope that you circle back around to join us for chapter 13 and continue to dive deep into these things. If you've had any insights or revelations, please tell me what your experiences are. I would even love to have you come on this Zoom call and hear about it so that at least one other person could hear about your experience. And perhaps there's one gold nugget that you can share with me and with others that will maybe make all the difference in the world. We can all learn from each other. We really can. So thank you once again. You've made my day. You have no idea how much I look forward to 9 p.m. every night to come together and share this information with you. And that's it. So ciao for now. And do let me know if you have Go Love 20. Have you been affected by Go Love 20? Yes? No? If you don't know what Go Love 20 is, that means that you're not affected. So then the answer would be no. So do let me know if the answer is no. If you have, right on, spread Go Love 20. All right? All right. Ciao for now.